projects are you working on at the moment? And what could possibly go wrong when working on a project from your knowledge and experience? Also, do you draft a contingency plan, aka Plan B, for every project? Welcome to the Word of Mouth English Studio channel, where we discuss all things grammar, articulation and accuracy to help boost your output and input language skills, and also help boost your confidence in your next webinar, seminar, meeting or conference. In this video tutorial, we'll be discussing structural accuracy with particular focus on mixed conditionals to help you use them in the workplace. Let's get started. To kick things off, let's have a look at the way a mixed conditional sentence would be constructed, without, of course, the use of the verbs that we actually need. Each of these sentences 1 to 4 on the left is a mixed conditional sentence that requires some tenses in order to complete them. Can you think of how you'd conjugate the verbs be and achieve in the first sentence, the verbs be and do in the second, the verbs miss and work in the third, and had and celebrate in the fourth sentence, respectively? So, what tenses do these sentences on the left require? Let's find out. How accurate were you at using these tenses and conjugating them? In the first sentence on the left, we were asked to use the verbs be and achieve in order to complete the sentence. And here is the answer. If we were more realistic when planning projects, we would have achieved all of the project's goals on time. So, were you right? Did you get this right? The past simple was used in the first half of the sentence. We call that a clause, whereas in the second clause, would followed by the present perfect form is needed. Would is the hypothetical form, and this modal verb should be used in the third and fourth or mixed conditionals. In the second sentence, the verbs be and do were used, and this was the answer. If you weren't such a good team player and hard worker, we wouldn't have done so well. Again, the past simple weren't was used in the first part of the sentence. We call it a clause. And in the second clause, we used, again, wouldn't, which is the hypothetical modal verb, followed by the present perfect tense again. This time it was negative. Did you put it into the negative form? Did you understand what it was the writer was trying to say, or the author or the speaker? And did you get it right? Here, in these two sentences, we, or the speaker rather, is going contrary to present reality and not past reality. Let's have a look at sentence 3. Miss and work were the two verbs needed here. And here's the answer. If we hadn't missed the functionality requirement described in the last point of the brief, we wouldn't be working on it now. In the second clause, wouldn't is the verb of modality here, followed by the present continuous. Did you understand why the present continuous would be appropriate here? Because it's happening at the moment, right? But the past perfect is used to go contrary to past reality. So this is a hypothetical statement going contrary to past reality, unlike the first two sentences we saw at the top. And now let's have a look at the last sentence, where we had to use the verb had when we were asked to use the verb celebrate. But how did you conjugate them, and what tenses did we use? Were they positive or negative? If we had had a complete and well thought out plan B, we could just celebrate our success now and not be thinking about how we are going to finish the project in just a week. And once more, the past perfect was used in the first clause, in the if clause, which we call the situation clause, whereas in the second half of the sentence, let's have a look, following the comma right there, let's have a closer look if we can, right? Okay, we could was used rather than would. So there are a variety of modal verbs that can be utilized as opposed to the hypothetical would. Right? Could talks about probability or possibility, and this is just one of the many you could use. we could just celebrate. So here we used the present simple rather than the continuous. Did you understand why? Would you have got this right? Or did you get it wrong? In the next part of the tutorial, we'll be focusing on the form and function of the fourth, otherwise known as the mixed, conditional. Today I'll be sourcing some material from the British Council as well as ESL Brains apart from my own. Let's have a look at how the mixed conditional is formed and why it's used. There are two ways we can use it. In the third conditional, we start off, as always, with the if clause, or rather the situation clause, followed by the past perfect. And then we go on to the second clause. The second clause of a third conditional sentence includes would, followed by the infinitive, and sometimes followed by the past participle, although not in all cases, because we could go from past to present or present to past. In these two different structures respectively, we'll see how the structure might differ. We can use mixed conditionals when we imagine a past change, and that's important to note here. However, the result of this past change can either be in the present or the past. So think about what examples you can think of, and think of the examples we looked at in the first part of today's tutorial. There were different types of past and present results, right? So let's have a look. If you're going past to present, right, or rather imagine how a change in the past situation would have a result in the present day, you can use this structure. If followed by the past perfect, and then would followed by an infinitive, but without the past participle. Such as, if I hadn't got the job in Tokyo, I wouldn't be with my current partner. So the past perfect is used in the situation clause, whereas in the result clause, would is followed by the infinitive without the past participle, because this is a present result. However, let's have a look at the second structure. We're moving from the present to the past now. In this case, we're going to imagine how a different situation in the present, which is here, okay, would mean that the past was different as well. And here is where we refer to the past. Let's have a look. It's really important. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have called you on your holiday. So imagine instances in which your director might call you while you're on holiday to let you know that something needed to be done or a project was urgent. Right, so we've all been there, but can you use these expressions? Well, here in the first clause, the situation clause, we start with if, followed by the simple past this time, right, to indicate that we're going contrary to present reality. However, in the second clause, we use would followed by the present perfect, and that would be the have followed by the past participle in this case, to indicate that the past was different as well. So therefore, you've got to make sure that everything is aligned, that there is accuracy, that there is a sense of continuity, and that your sentences make sense to the reader. And here are some sentences for B1 and B2 intermediate English users in the mixed conditional. If I'd planted seeds in the spring, I would have tomatoes now. My mom would be fine now if the doctor had realised what was wrong with her at the beginning. If my train had been on time, I wouldn't have missed my meeting. If you had started studying earlier, you'd feel more prepared for the exam. They would have seen the fireworks if they had been here 15 minutes earlier, but they didn't really get to see them. If I didn't have so much work this week, I would have gone with you yesterday. But the reality is you did have work, so you missed yesterday's event. My parents wouldn't have met if my grandmother hadn't left Ireland. The fact is, though, that your parents did meet past simple, because this statement goes contrary to the past. They really don't think they know about this. If they did, she would have lost her job months ago. So think about how you have already used mixed conditionals, or whether you've never used them correctly. So this exercise should make us more aware of how we've been using conditionals in the past, and whether you've been using mixed conditionals correctly, or whether you've been making a few errors with the positions of certain types of verbs, auxiliaries, or perhaps even putting the modal verb in the wrong place or in the wrong clause. That happens all the time. Let's move on. This exercise right here should have already made us aware of the mistakes we're making in This exercise should make us aware of the mistakes that we're making, of the errors that we have made, and those that we have managed to edit and those that we haven't managed to correct. So which of these errors are you making? Are you using the wrong tense? Are you forgetting to use an important word, one of the words in context? Are you missing the point of what the writer is trying to say? Are you forgetting that these are hypothetical statements? Or are you making the very, very common error of putting the wrong verb of modality in the wrong clause? That happens all the time. Let's have a look at more examples in context. Earlier on, we had a look at some examples of how the mixed conditional is used in a variety of contexts, and we've also had a look at the form and function. We've reviewed all of that, and now it's crunch time. Let's focus on listening and reading skills. Whilst you read and listen to a short dialogue from a final project meeting, jot down all of the conditional sentences that you hear. There are 2 slides. Who'd like to start? I can. So, all in all, I think we've done pretty well, but of course there are some things worth pointing out. During our next project, we definitely need to read the project brief more carefully. As you all know, this time we didn't, and because of this we faced some serious problems. For example, if we hadn't missed the functionality requirement described in the last point of the brief, we wouldn't be working on it now. Yeah, I agree with you. What I would also like to add is that we have to work on setting achievable milestones. I feel that we are sometimes a little over-optimistic. If we were more realistic when planning projects, we would have achieved all of the project's goals on time. Sure, that's something we need to work on, but let's face it, it's not that easy to change personality. Nevertheless, there is one more thing I want to discuss. We need to remember that every project is a joint effort by the whole team and not just one person. For sure, we need to give thanks to you, Manuela. I feel that if you weren't such a good team player and hard worker, we wouldn't have done so well. Oh, come on, we all did our best. Next time we just need to spend more time on a contingency plan because it can really save our lives. This time, however, we didn't have any, and that's why we had so many delays. If we had had a complete and well-thought-out plan B, we could just celebrate our success now and not be thinking about how we are going to finish the project in just a week. You're right, Manuela. It should give us some food for thought. And now, let's have a look at the conditional sentences to see whether you got them right. Did you identify the following? If we hadn't missed the functionality requirement described in the last point of the brief, we wouldn't be working on it now. This is the mixed conditional going contrary to past reality, which is why the past perfect is used. If we were more realistic when planning projects, we would have achieved all of the project's goals on time. This is a mixed conditional sentence that goes contrary to present reality, but it moves from present to past, whereas the first sentence moves from past to present. Notice the shift? Here are some more mixed conditional sentences you should have spotted. If you weren't such a good team player and hard worker, we wouldn't have done so well. Here we're focusing on going contrary to present reality in the situation clause with a result in the past. In the second sentence, however, we focus on going back to the past, so this is going contrary to past reality, using the past perfect. If we had had a complete and well-thought-out plan B, we could just celebrate our success now and not be thinking about how we're going to finish the project in just a week. And look at the outcome, which is a present outcome, moving from present to past and from past to present. How many of these did you identify correctly? Now let's study the table. Read the 2 sample sentences from the text that we just listened to and identify whether the past or the present should be used in the rules section at the bottom. Take some time to think about that now. And now let's have a look at the answers to see whether you chose the present or the past. We use if followed by the past perfect in the first clause, and would, could, or might followed by the infinitive without the past participle in the second clause when talking about the present results of the hypothetical situation or condition in the past. Now let's see if you get the following right. Have a look at these 2 sample sentences from the reading we did earlier and complete the rule with either the present or the past. And think about it once more. And here is the key. If followed by the past simple in the first clause is followed by either would, could, or might in the second clause, followed by have and the past participle when talking about a past result of a present situation or a present condition. And did you get this right? If you did, well done. You can now move on to the second part. Let's put it into practice with a little grammar exercise. Can you complete the sentences A to E using the correct form of the verb in parentheses or brackets? Take some time to do that now. And here is the key. How many of these did you get right? Now we'll move on to some speaking activities. Can you rephrase the sentences A to D below using mixed conditionals, as in the first example given here? You didn't finish your work on time because you were a procrastinator. But if you weren't such a procrastinator, you would have finished your work on time. Think of punctuation in all of your conditional sentences. The comma here is only necessary because we started the sentence with the if clause or the situation clause. Whereas if you were to change these 2 around, you could switch the clauses without the use of a comma. Try out this exercise. For the last part of this tutorial, let's engage in some speaking practice so you can do this in the comfort of your home with or without your tutor. So get ready to complete these mixed conditional sentences. If I didn't believe my friend, we wouldn't have so many clients now. If my partner were less stubborn, if I hadn't met my business partner, if I hadn't lived in Paris, if they had left earlier, if I spoke better English, If our manager hadn't got us a deal, if he hadn't interrupted me, if I hadn't studied law, she wouldn't be the CEO of our company. If we had finished on time, I wouldn't be a manager now. Hopefully you've got the hang of mixed conditionals and will be better able to use them in the coming weeks with less hesitation and more accuracy. Hey, thanks for sticking around and watching today's video tutorial. We hope you enjoyed the content of this video. If you did, if you found it informative, then please hit the subscribe button on your way out if you haven't already. And please remember to give this video a thumbs up. There's plenty of other content on our video channel for you to browse through and enjoy. So let us know what content you liked and what kind of content you'd like to see more of in our future videos, as there's plenty more to come. Let us know whether you'd like to focus on business English or Cambridge academic or general preparation training, whether you'd like to focus more on colloquial English and figurative language, or whether you'd like to focus more on range and accuracy, structure, or vocabulary building. Let us know. We'd like to hear more from you in the comments below. And see you next time.